In the quiet mountain community of Keddie, California, nestled deep in the Sierra Nevada, life moved slowly. It was the kind of place where neighbors knew each other, and trouble was a stranger. But on the morning of April 12, 1981, Keddie would be thrust into a nightmare that has haunted investigators, locals, and true crime enthusiasts for decades. Cabin 28, once a rustic retreat for a single mother and her children, would become the site of one of the most brutal and mysterious unsolved murders in American history. Glenna Sue Sharp, a recently separated mother of 5, had moved to Keddie just months before the tragedy, looking for a fresh start. She had relocated from Connecticut with her children and settled into Cabin 28, a modest wooden home with a sagging front porch and a picturesque view of the surrounding forest. Life hadn't been easy. She was relying on welfare, food stamps, and odd jobs to get by, but her children were enrolled in school, and Sue was trying to build a better life. On the night of April 11, 1981, Sue was home with her 14-year-old daughter Sheila, her 12-year-old son John, his friend Dana Wingate, and her younger sons Rick and Greg, who were having a sleepover with a neighborhood friend named Justin Smart. Sheila had gone next door to sleep over at a friend's house, a decision that may have saved her life. The next morning, Sheila returned to Cabin 28 to find the front door slightly ajar. What she saw inside would scar her forever. The living room was a scene from a horror film. Her mother, Sue, her brother John, and Dana Wingate lay dead on the floor. They had been bound with electrical tape and shoelaces. Blood soaked the carpet and splattered the walls. It was clear this was no robbery. This was rage, brutality, possibly even revenge. Strangely, in a small bedroom at the back of the house, her 2 younger brothers and their friend Justin were found alive, untouched, and seemingly unaware of what had happened just feet away. Even more unsettling, the remains of Sue's 12-year-old daughter, Tina, were missing. It would be 3 years before Tina's skull was found nearly 100 miles away in a remote area of the Feather River Canyon, an area that had already been searched. Her remains were scattered, and her murder added yet another horrifying layer to the already bizarre case. Police were baffled. The crime scene was chaotic, evidence was compromised from the start, and mistakes were made that would haunt the investigation for years. The house was not properly secured, and neighbors and officials walked in and out contaminating the scene. Critical evidence, including potential fingerprints and DNA, may have been lost forever, but what did remain told a terrifying story. Sue had been bound, gagged with her own underwear, and stabbed repeatedly. A knife had been bent from the force of the attack. A hammer was also used in the assaults. John and Dana were also brutally beaten, both suffering severe head trauma. It was personal, it was vicious, it was overkill. Rumors immediately began to swirl. Was it a crime of passion, a drug deal gone wrong, or had Sue been targeted by someone she knew? Investigators initially focused on a man named Martin Smart, the stepfather of Justin, the boy who had slept through the attack in the same house. Martin lived just a few cabins away. He was known to be volatile, abusive, and jealous. Some reports suggested Sue had tried to counsel Martin's wife Marilyn to leave him. That same night, Martin and his friend Bo Bobade, a man with ties to organized crime, were seen at the local bar, reportedly behaving strangely, and later returning to their cabin with inconsistent alibis. But the investigation stalled. Despite suspicious behavior and even a confession from Martin to a counselor, claiming, "I killed Sue and Tina, but I didn't have anything to do with the boys," no charges were ever filed. The recording of that confession was allegedly lost for years. Even more bizarre, the hammer believed to be used in the murders was found in a nearby pond, decades later. And when Marilyn Smart was re-interviewed years after the crime, she told investigators she believed her husband and Bo were responsible. In 2016, new efforts to re-examine the case were launched. Advanced DNA techniques were applied to recovered evidence, and new witnesses were interviewed. The sheriff at the time, Doug Thomas, had long insisted that the case had no solid leads, but rumors spread that he had personal connections to Martin Smart. Many believe there was a cover-up, or at the very least, a gross mishandling of evidence and suspects. The updated investigation revealed that DNA found on tape used to bind the victims matched a living suspect, though authorities have never released that person's name publicly.
The Keddie Cabin Murders remain one of the darkest, most disturbing unsolved cases in American true crime. And as more evidence slowly comes to light, one can only hope that someone, somewhere, will finally speak, and that the victims of Cabin 28 will one day receive the justice they so desperately deserve.